We are back once again, part 2.
Yes, of the philosophy of failure, the can't ever miss one, that zero failure type of attitude. We are back. We are talking about it. Constant victory. But before we get into that, Bob, where can they see us?
They are going to be able to see us actually as of this recording. They will be, the next time we'll be there is a couple of days later, is Connecticut Fire Department instructors. We're doing a whole instructor development thing, which is going to be a lot of fun. We call it You Suck at Teaching Hazmat, and most people do. And we're going to fix that.
We're going to try to, if they listen.
We have the WAMR, that's the Wisconsin, the New England, the OMRA, which is very exciting, Michigan, Cold Zone, South Carolina. And we also, if you've been under a rock or something, go back on our YouTube channel or Facebook, I think, and you can see the Battery Destroyers Club, which was a episode, and there's 2 to 3 more in the works right now. And then as of this recording, it will be a couple days ago, you could see the after action report, which was featuring Mike Callan, a salty dog in himself. And we have a whole long list of this. This will pretty much be happening every Wednesday night, the first Wednesday night of the month at 19:30 hours Eastern Standard Time. We're bringing back all the OGs, and we're finding out what it was like back in the day before lights came out.
Yeah. Before books, tablets,
Kobe School with Jesus kind of thing.
With Jesus, right.
So it should be interesting to keep this going and hopefully bottle as much as we can for these guys and pass it on. Be the medium to pass it on. That's it.
So how do we look at constant victory? How do we have this idea that we can't ever lose just one single time, or one single failure could lead to catastrophic events? Well, we can kind of look at this from several different points of views. There's several different philosophies on how someone can start to wrap their mind around this constant victory thought process. And the one that probably is always in the back of everybody's mind is kind of that existential view where, if you mess up, you die, and then you're kind of gone forever. So, and I know a lot of people who train with this thought process in mind. They train with this idea that, like, hey, man, this is my life. This is going to affect me, right? There's slogans out there, and let no man's go say my training let me down. Things along those lines. Like the idea that failure could lead to death is definitely a really good motivator in trying to constantly do better.
I tell that to guys that when they get into level A's, and I'm like, I know we're in training and everything. I'm like, but are you in a panic? Like, would you be in a panic? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess a little bit. I go, you should be absolutely terrified. I'm like, if the chemical is requiring this level of PPE, that you have to bring your entire environment in with you.
Right.
And it's so badass that if a little bit touched your skin, you're dead. I'm like, you should seriously be calling up the wife and going, is the life insurance paid up?
Right. I'm literally isolating myself from the world to deal with this. And it doesn't take much to breach a suit. In reality, it doesn't take much to slip up. It doesn't take much. If you're in one of those weird, kind of environments that we talk about where you don't have a choice between flammability and toxicity. Well, now, like, my whole, like, if something goes wrong, I'm now in a flammable atmosphere. In a plastic suit. So that the driving motivation of staying alive is definitely something that can help us out.
And the next one is the stoicism, right? Which is one of those words where you're like, let me first define it, because I'm telling you, this is, if you read any of these like leadership books or anything like this, they talk about stoic principles a lot, and it's on focusing on what's within your control and accepting what's not in your control. And that's a way to mentally prepare yourself for the risks and stuff like that. Special operations, the Navy SEALs, Delta Force, all those guys that are the most badass guys on the planet, they understand that there's things that they cannot control for. And so if you think that being a control freak and wanting to understand all aspects and making sure that every tool is tight in the way you want it, that is just not a thing. It has to be things outside your control.
Yeah, well, I mean, some expressions from the military, right? The plane goes to hell after the first shot is fired.
Yeah.
You know,
well, Mike Tyson.
Right.
Everybody's a plan until he gets punched in the face.
That's right. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. But it's really true, right? Like, because think of how much wasted energy people could have, right? You arrive on scene and you haven't been able to identify what you can control and what you can't control. Well, by not identifying that, now your brain is processing information that it doesn't need to be processing on, right? 20% of your brain is going to try to figure out a solution that there's no solution for because you haven't recognized there's no solution for it. Instead of being able to turn around and focus all your energy on what is within your bounds to control and what you can operate. So by being able to have that idea and that concept of being able to say, this is beyond my control, I can't help it, I will work around whatever and whenever it happens, you allow that full bandwidth. You know, it's funny. I guess it's not funny. Well, no, it is funny. It's funny if it's not you. It's funny if it's not you. The whole idea and thought process that, like, you know, my death only has to win once. Right, like I die once, my failure only has to happen once. I have to succeed every single time.
Yes,
right. So it's kind of bullshit. It's when you think about it like that. When you think about all the things that people have done, and when we know firefighters and hazmat people that have lost their lives in the line of duty. So I'm not trying to poke fun at that in any way, shape, or form. But they lost that day, and death won. And right. Because if you don't have that mindset of that constant victory, that constant, you know. And some of it's beyond their control, talking about what you talked about. I can go and I could do everything just perfect, and I could die from something that is beyond my control. So, you know, it's this thought process of let me do everything I can with what I have when I have. And then when I step in, and that's in the training world. And then when I step into the reality world, things will fall into place a little bit easier.
I agree with that. And one of the, as a technician, even as a human, I think you got to kind of, we're always in this dichotomy, like this split, like the paradox,
like a tug of war,
right?
Yeah.
The yin and the yang, or whatever the hell it might be. But we have this philosophical paradox in this situation here, where we have the striving for a consistent success in an environment where failure, though less frequent, thankfully, is disproportionately larger consequences. Like you don't come out of a scene and get a cookie or you know, like here's a freaking trophy for this thing. Right. But if you come out wrong, if you did the wrong thing,
you look right.
There's no timeouts and do-overs.
That goes back to kind of last week, where it's like you're only as good as your last job.
Right.
Like if you're stepping in and you're not producing every single time, nobody cares. And if you go to the whole idea of consequences, right? Like one little thing, you know, nobody's going to see the 10 things you do that are good. But if you do one mistake that then catastrophically ruins the scene or the environment or makes things proportionally worse, oh man, that is one of the biggest fears we have is messing this up. Like I've done little mess ups here and there, but I don't think I've done anything that has catastrophically set the scene backwards. Have you ever done?
I don't think no, I can't. Yeah. Like, you know, like, where everything went sideways and I'm like, woof, like that escalated pretty quickly.
Yeah. At least not from my own actions. I mean, we've been at jobs where, you know, the fire has suddenly engulfed the whole building in a matter of seconds. You're like, holy crap. But it's not like I pulled a lever and that happened. So, yeah, you know, it's,
no, I don't think so either. Well, whatever, you know what, it's going to happen. And one of the things that we can do is increase our grit, our resilience. Now, this is kind of a thing where I think it's kind of hard to do in a tabletop. I'll tell you, I experienced this a lot actually doing things or during training under a lot of pressure. You know, for example, we would do, okay, everybody does like your your firefighter search drills or your gun jam drills or whatever it might be. But doing those drills with like death metal music playing loud in the dark where it's super cold, like all those stressors are adding up, and I know there's a lot of people that say like there's the Swiss cheese theory of catastrophic events where, when all those little holes line up just right, you can see right through the cheese. That's when it happens.
But that's when the catastrophe happens?
Yeah, because it wasn't one thing that caused the catastrophe.
Right.
It was a multitude of things that happened in the right order, in the right proximity, in the right like spatial planes and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, in order to build your grit and resilience, you have to train. You're not just going to the day of the Super Bowl, just going to show up and be like, "Oh, I'm ready for 80,000 people to yell at me." You're not. You can't handle three people yelling at you.
You have to have people yelling at you on a regular basis every day before you can get to something like that. You make the cake in the oven. It all comes together under pressure, I think. And there are ways to try to put your mindset to be able to do that, because it is incredibly stressful to be in a situation where you're having endless struggle, right? Where it's constant. You come from one thing to another. And, everybody has different coping mechanisms for that. I personally, one of the things that taught me the most about struggle and perseverance, believe it or not, was something totally outside the fire department, and that was jujitsu. Oh. Where you are basically in this quasi life and death battle with somebody, right? You're either going to break a limb or get choked out, and you there are times where you're literally just you're right there. You're like you're right there. You're about to be choked out, but all you have to do is just relax and wait. And just hold your posture and wait. And you're struggling, but you're waiting, and you're waiting for the right moment to come in, and you're learning patience and calmness under extreme pressure. And we can take that concept and that idea and apply it to the fire world. I mean, we see that some of the greatest officers I know are the ones that just kind of like walk in, the whole building's on fire, and they're telling you what to do, like they're asking you what's for lunch. They're calm. They know what's ahead of them. They know it's going to be a struggle, but they keep themselves in their mind calm in the process. They focus on the goals. They focus on what they can control, what they can't control, the outcomes, and they move forward.
I like that. And one more before, we move on to another topic is mindfulness. And I've heard this being put as being in the moment. I like to pre-plan. Me personally, I like to say be 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. Okay. I like to be doing 2 or 3 tasks at the same time. But there are times where you have to just come home and understand where we are. Like, okay, it is really cold. I'm okay with that. It is really loud. I'm okay with that. Be present. And just be, how do you say this? To remain clear-headed in the face of immense pressures. And the only way to do this is to really practice in immense pressures. Whether it's self-imposed or somebody imposes on you.
Well, no different than the airline pilots, right? Where they have to maintain this extreme level of calmness in order to think through a problem and a solution. And you hear it even on the radio when they know they're about to go down, they know they're about to die, and they're just absolutely calm as could be. Yeah. And that's for them, it's
Delta 3-6 heavy coming in, and it's like instead of
I'm gonna die, right? No, that would be me. I'd be screaming like a little bitch, please, begging as I go down. But I mean it's that thought process, right? I mean, we can list multiple examples, but it's that calmness under pressure. It's that keeping the right mindset. It's the understanding the important things, understanding the things you control. Like, it all ties into that experience that gives you the ability to just kind of relax and have that constant victory over and over again.
Right. It's being able to communicate that well. Now, how would you go about continuing to prepare?
Well, all right. So now let's take all of this that we've talked about, because you have to train, you have to do things. What are some strategies that we can do in order to maintain that level of calmness and clarity and not ever get to the point that our own mindset is going to keep us from that constant victory?
I'm going to go back, and I know I've mentioned this before because it almost makes you it gives you the chills. But there was that dude that dropped the plane into the Hudson.
Oh, yes.
Sullenberger.
Yes.
Right. And I remember reading something on him, and his peers said that if there was one guy you knew that could do this, who would it be? And they're like, oh, that guy. He was always training. He was always trying this, and what if this fails, and always preparing. And the article said, and I remember the quote because it was such a good quote. He said, from day one, I made constant deposits into my emergency fund, knowing full well one day I would have to make an immediate full withdrawal. And I was like, oh, that's it. That hits you in the feels, as they say.
That really does.
Right. And so continuous learning, the necessity of ongoing education and training, it doesn't always have to be external. Like, you can stress your system sitting in a chair, closing your eyes and saying, okay, what if this happens? What's your plan? As we said last week, if you don't even talk about hitting the deer, you don't even know that's an option. And maybe I'll say, hey, I'm going to hit the deer. Mike, what do you think about hitting deer? You're like, that's crazy. They're full of explosives. You're like, oh, okay,
right. Yeah, you're going to die if you hit the deer. Yeah, but at least you've walked through the process, and beyond that, right? Beyond it as a choice, if you go down that choice, right? What if I do hit the deer? What if I can't swerve left and right? So what if I do hit the deer? Well, there's the possibility that my vehicle is damaged. There's a possibility it goes through the window. Am I prepared to fail at that mission and then pick up the pieces and move forward? So even walking through the failure can ultimately lead to a victory, which is why our training has to be as absolutely realistic as possible. Right. Mm-hmm. You in no way, shape, or form can go in and half-ass your unrealistic training. Even tabletops, which are just sitting in a room, you want the scenarios to be realistic. You want the choices to be realistic. You want to be able to incense or implant a sense of urgency into the people that are sitting at the table, so that they have that mindset is starting to click in, and then they can kind of pull back from it.
Dude, you know what? You said the urgency, and it's very hard to do that on a tabletop. And I did this. It's might be a little underhanded, but when I put a clock up on a table and say you have 20 minutes, you assume you have 20 minutes. But I set the clock to run at 1.2 speed. The 20 minutes was actually like 16.
Oh, so just the pressure of time becomes that artificial pressure in their head. Because
their interpretation, you know how long 20 minutes is, maybe 5 minutes, but when it's not real and time starts distorting because of pressure, it actually increases the pressure. It was a weird thing. I'm not saying it was good or bad. Some guys were pissed off about it, but
hey, listen,
I got the response I wanted.
Right. And how did you find that, just that tweaking of that training, how did you see a difference in their response?
It ramped up exponentially. As you watch one of those cooking shows and you watch them beating Bobby Flay or something like that, as they get down to 3, 2, and they're trying to plate the last couple of things, sweating and pouring off them and stuff like that. But if you modify the rules of the clock where time changes and stuff like that, it actually makes it a lot harder.
I would imagine that would actually go to also help with the next point, is that developing the right mindset, where you're kind of starting that mental toughness. like, I've got the clock beaten down. I have to put my shit off to the side in order to focus on what's in front of me. I have to be tough enough to be able to push out what is not helping and focus on the immediate and come to a solution.
Yeah. I even doing, again, this is kind of like a running joke in the emergency services, like, in construction, like safety first, and emergency services, like safety third, like
third.
Like, I know it's sometimes, but it is kind of a thing. Like I'll give you the case in point. Do you wear a bump helmet in your level A?
No.
Most people don't. And because they're like, what do I need this for? I put it on in training. This is game day. You don't need that. But how bad is it if you're walking into like a confined space or pipes and you go boom and you get blasted right in the head and you take a knee, in the broken glass, and you rip open the suit, and you can see how the snowball. So safety should be part of it.
It absolutely has to be part of the risk benefit analysis, right? Like we do, like you said, we sacrifice safety, but the safety portion has to be there in that whole left, right, go, balance. No go things, right? That balance.
Yeah. And when you do that, and this is a professional athlete, these are special operations in the military, everything like that. They all use like this concept of visualization, right? Before you go downrange, before you zip up, close your eyes and visualize what the perfect scenario looks like. I'm walking in, I'm going to step over that curb with a nice high knee. I'm going to grab the tool in my left hand. I'm going to pivot to the right. Like all these things, everybody does it. Like football players, baseball players, and military guys, even though especially in the military ones, they don't know what's behind the wall. And just like we don't know what's on the other side of the wall. So, but they do have drills. So if you're interested in that positive visualization, especially the military guys, they're like, that is what makes us so successful, is that we visualize the success we're going to see and we just step into it
and just work towards it.
Yeah, that's it. But not like it's like, what's the big deal? It's just SEAL things. You just jump out of planes. It's pretty impressive shit.
I mean, I successfully imagine landing on the ground.
Yeah, with a parachute.
With a parachute, right? That's the key part.
But like even you're going to have successes and failures.
You should be learning from those successes and failures.
That's the key. That's what I want. And so when we started the podcast, I remember this. This is frustrating as shit, because when we started the podcast, we were like, we're going to have all these topics, and then we're going to invite all these people on, and they're going to discuss their failures, and it's going to be great. I will say we're up to what, 426 episodes?
Anybody.
How many we've had? 30?
30, maybe. We actually I reached out to somebody 2 days ago and was like, hey guys, I saw you had this run, they did this, that. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to come on. We'll love to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. He's like, let me just run it past my supervisors. And 2 days later, I get a text message back that's like, it's a no-go. They're not allowing us to talk about the incident. And I'm like, and it's the way that it is. Like, we can't get anybody to come on and talk about their successes and talk about and we do, but it's very frustrating.
It's hard, but what we're talking about is firsthand accounts of operations. However, there are all those things called case studies, which I will say the IAT, the International Association of, the Chemical Safety Board, CSB, that's what it is. They do case studies on things that went sideways, and you can learn a lot of stuff. So grab those reports, break them into pieces, and make them tabletops where every so often you inject a new piece of the puzzle and have discussions after each piece, after each paragraph. Yeah, that's an easy one.
It's a little bit harder to do the near misses, right? You have your catastrophes and then you have your near misses. I don't think there's a central database for near misses, right?
I don't think so. But you know what? There's an extensive database of catastrophes.
There is catastrophes, right? But
I'm going to bet there's some people that do near misses. But how many times have you read a report on lessons learned? Nobody gives a shit about them. That's what we were trying to get on. People that learned a little bit,
tiny bit. Yep. But we get that, right? There's no central database, but we got that by sitting around the firehouse kitchen table. So that was our near miss study. That's what we were trying to bring on to the show, was that, a nationwide near miss or a nationwide lessons learned. It's super important to understand what happened from somebody's point of view, where they failed, they learned a lesson, and by understanding and hearing them, hearing their situation, hearing their options, hearing their outcome, that actually becomes experience in your brain, in that filing cabinet. So it's huge. And with that, what would be the right word? With that responsibility of listening to somebody's near miss, you also have the responsibility of giving out your near misses, right? You're being open to feedback from people, where they turn around and they go, hey, listen, like, I see what you did there, and I don't think it was the best thing. Maybe you could have done it a little bit differently. That's really hard for us as firefighters, to listen to other people's critiques, especially in the hazmat world, where, that operation, it was based upon science and thought and this and that, and you're basically criticizing the person's entire thought process by being like, yeah, I think you were wrong, I think you could have done it better. But we have to absolutely be open to it.